mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on in to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of SNL Stories, the podcast series where we get to catch up with SNL alumni, and we have a really fun one for you today. Let's bring in our co-host for the interview first, and first up, it is James P. Stevens Jr. James, how you doing, buddy?
I am very well, John. Thank you. I'm excited. We have a great guest today. This is going to be a really, really fun conversation.
Absolutely. We have the great Andy Hoglund joining us as well. Andy, how are you doing?
John, it is so great to be back on the program here. You know, happy summer to you and to James P. Stevens Jr. as well. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Well, let me bring in our special guest that we have here today on SNL Stories, and that is the brilliant Oz Rodriguez, who joined Saturday Night Live back in 2012, has directed a ton of digital shorts from his time there. He was head of the film unit. He actually won an Emmy for his time at SNL. He worked on this great series called Creating SNL. I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but it's not just SNL. He's worked on so many SNL-related programs, most recently Bupkis as well. How about that, damn Michael Che? And today, he is promoting a film that is out today on Hulu, August 16th. That is Miguel Wants to Fight. It is such a great movie. We're going to get into it and talk all about it. So let me bring in Oz Rodriguez. Oz, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, that was an amazing intro. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Well, of course, you deserve it. So excited to get into all of your projects and chat with you, talk everything SNL, because I know the fans are just so excited to hear about some of the projects that you worked on. But before we get into some of those, I'm sure everybody would love to know, how did you get on SNL in the first place? What's your origin story for coming onto the show?
So I used to live in Los Angeles, and I had some friends. We were working at a film school. We were trying to make it in Hollywood, and no one cared about us. So we started making sketches, and we put them online, and that kind of led to this place called superdeluxe.com, which was a sort of the precursor of Funny or Die. And they were there for a year and a half, and that was amazing. We did like 30 sketches, and then they ran out of money. And then Funny or Die appeared, and we came knocking on the door. I think I sent Adam McKay a DM through like the Funny or Die website. I didn't even check it for like a couple of days, because I'm like, this dude's never gonna friggin' check this. And he did. He responded, and that got us a general at his company, and that got us a short on Funny or Die. And they liked it, and they gave us a job. And anyway, I was there for 3.5 years, and I was working with my friend Matt Valines. And the Lonely Island guys had just left, and they were looking for directors. And we got this call saying they're going to fly you out to New York to interview for SNL. I think they told us on like a Thursday, and we're going to fly out on Tuesday. So we had all weekend to freak out and be like, what the fuck? What the hell? So yeah, that's like the really short version of it. But yeah, sort of started in the online comedy space. There was like a big boom of that in the 2000s, the 10s, if you will.
So comedy, it was always about comedy for you. Is that true? Like didn't you have a sketch group back in the way beginning?
Oh, I didn't think it was going to be just comedy. I went to film school, and I thought like films. But yeah, I met some friends. We weren't doing anything, and like I'm predisposed to comedy just by natural self. So I think it just was meant to be. So yeah, I think I just sort of stumbled onto this, but I never, like, people have asked me if this was a dream come true to work at SNL. I know, because I didn't even know you could do the things that I ended up doing, right. or like I didn't know this was a job you could get. So yeah, I think it just happened, and it's been very good.
I'd like to stay on the Funny or Die era for a little bit, if possible. Just because I remember when that was such an important popular comedy website. Really, as you said, Oz, just as kind of like internet comedy was, breaking through the mainstream, I guess. So I was wondering, you're a couple features in now. What do you think about your work there? How would you compare your shorts there now that you're a big movie director, feature film director? Do you ever look back and cringe, or do you think, hey, that had kind of a freshness to it? Or I'm just curious how you remember that time period.
I remember it very fondly. It was really exciting, and it was sort of a smaller version and more relaxed version of SNL, as far as like a lot of creative people in one place, but the deadlines weren't as intense. So it was like working and just hanging out with a lot of funny people, and it was my first taste of sort of like working with celebrities of all kinds. Like I remember, I think in one week I worked with. Do you guys remember John plus Kate or something, that
Yeah, the
an eight or
Gosling, the
something?
reality
Somebody else.
star.
Yeah, John
Yeah.
and Kate plus eight.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I worked with John Gosling and then Tim Roth, like the same week or something. It was wild. So yeah, but it was my first time working with like a bigger crew, and I really appreciate it because I sort of like eased into bigger productions because we had makeup and we had celebrities, and we would have to like figure out where to park the trailer, and it was sort of good training ground to just for production, and that I think helped for SNL, which like basically my joke is that was the majors, the major league version of what I was doing at Funny or Die.
Do you ever see Will Ferrell at all, or is he just not involved? Is it more Adam McKay?
They, I think, were both involved, and their production company was, it was usually on the top floor, so they were around, when it was Gary Sanchez was around. So, I mean, not like every day, but, yeah, they were around. But in their company, and I think they also, when they liked the video, I think they let whoever did it know. But not like every day at the kitchen being like, hey, what's up?
Right.
So you mentioned that you joined SNL, and this was pretty soon after The Lonely Island had left the show. Did you feel any pressure at all to, match what they had done at the show? Because I felt like, what they had produced throughout those years in the late 2000s was so groundbreaking. At a time where social media started to grow and videos started to get put on YouTube, and The Lonely Island has become synonymous with the changing of media. So for you to come on in and be one of those replacements for The Lonely Island, did it feel like added pressure for you to then join the show then, or how was that experience?
I think, yeah, there was the pressure, but I was also hired we were hired as directors, not as sort of Lonely Island replacement. So because they were gone, that digital short spot that they always had was freed up, so anyone could write a sketch or a pre-tape or a digital short. So any writer, could write a piece, a commercial, a music video, a short film, a parody. So it was open to everybody, and that was exciting for us because we could work with, one. I think the first thing we did was with Seth Meyers. He wrote the first pre-tape we did, so that was, everybody sort of got a bat at that space that was always the Lonely Island. So yes, but also everything was terrifying that first year. So it was just like that's just one of many things that are terrifying. We moved from LA to New York, and
Right.
there were so many things that was just one of them.
Could you tell us about that first pre-tape that you worked on? You said it was written by Seth, but which one was it? What episode was it from?
Well, technically, it was the second pre-tape because that week we did something called the Republican National Convention cutaway shots, something like that, and it was written by Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider. It was basically about the interesting, colorful characters that were at the Republican National Convention in 2012. Oh my God. And it was just like sort of like a way to have the whole cast play weirdos. that didn't air that week. So we did that Thursday night, and then Friday morning we did this piece called Clint Eastwood and Chair. That it was Seth wrote that one, and it was about Clint Eastwood going on. It was a one man Broadway show, one man and a chair, and it was just a bunch of goofs with Bill Hader in a chair.
Yeah, and if you want to check out that one, that's from the Seth MacFarlane episode.
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane and Frank Ocean, and I remember Psy showed up. It was a Psy cameo. It was wild.
James?
Yeah, no, this is exciting to hear. So, well, first of all, I have to ask you this. So, you've worn many hats over the years: director, producer, editor. You've written things, but primarily you're known as a director, right? And you come in at SNL, and you quickly learn, I imagine, how insane the turnaround time is. And over the years that you're there, you're part of the production team of, I don't know what the grand total is, John, but there's quite a few pre-tapes films that you have directed. So how do you manage that without losing your mind and I don't know if you cut corners, or what is it you do to basically turn around something so quickly, that is, I don't know, it's mind-boggling, I guess. Speak to that.
Well, you don't really want to cut corners that show on screen, because that's not it's definitely not good. It needs to look like a premium product. I think the Funny or Die experience helped. It was a very 48-hour film school kind of version of it. So I think it also, for me, helped that I had a partner. And we also edited everything. So I think this still happens to this day, like the newer directors, they're assigned something a little easier, not like the crazy big music video to start. So Eastwood and Chair wasn't a crazy, it was a few shots. So yeah, I think as you show that you can do something, then your assignments get a little more complicated. And then when you show that you can deliver a thing that you shot over 22 hours and somehow you got it on the screen, and they're like, oh, well, you did that, you could do this thing. So yeah, I think one crazy story from that first episode was it was a pretty easy assignment, but it was very stressed. So I got a cold, and that morning I woke up, and instead of taking a Dayquil, I took a NyQuil.
Oh no!
I was tripping during that the first edit of Eastwood and Chair, and puking my mind out on my first show night. So that was really exciting. And we got the. I also learned that you have to mix things sometimes an hour before, and we actually mixed Eastwood and Chair right before the sketch that was playing before, the previous sketch that went before Eastwood and Chair. There's everything is to the last minute, so that was very stressful as I was tripping balls on NyQuil.
Dude, so backing that up, though, this is incredible to hear. You are sometimes giving a version that is not quite complete. Am I correct in saying for the dress audience, and doing some fine tuning between that and the air?
I think you can, but you also want sometimes it depends on the dress audience's reaction if your piece will make it to air. So you want your piece to be as complete as possible. So you don't really want a green screen shot in there, because people would get distracted and not follow the story or the jokes or whatever. So yes, but I tried to avoid it as much as possible because of what I described. You want to be as close to the finish line for dress. So it means that you have to be close to done somewhere around 8 to 9 p.m.
And one more follow-up. Sorry, I'm hogging the mic here, but I have to ask this because I'm always interested in this. So, you're directing it, you've got editors. How involved are you when the shoot is complete? In the edit room or whatever. Uh, what's you're there
Well,
too, right?
the
Yeah,
first year and a half, we were editing everything, so very very
very
involved.
involved. Yeah,
And then we found, and then I worked with a couple editors in my whole run. Kelly Lyon, we found she was someone that I had worked here and there with Jim Signorelli, who was
yeah,
the first, the creator of the film unit.
right.
And worked with her and had a great relationship. And then we worked with Adam Epstein, who is also amazing and has gone on to do amazing things. He edited Forks, the bear episode, and Miguel Wants to Fight.
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting. Okay, that's a good
Yeah,
connection.
yeah. But yeah, that they like it's a very demanding job on every department. So like when you find someone that can hang in such a crazy scenario, it's they become really trusted collaborators.
And the earliest you would start any filming would be Thursday.
Yeah, I think on some occasions we shot on a Tuesday. That like if there was some idea that was like weird and we wanted to try out, that was sort of not that was a sort of we could do it in a low budget kind of way and not interfere with the machine of the show. We would do it like we did Mokiki on a Tuesday, and then a lot of Mike O'Brien pieces we would do on a Tuesday because they would play really well at at the table, would not get picked, and then they would let us do it on a Tuesday, but I still would have to do whatever on Friday, like a commercial or whatever the hell I had to do.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes we would do it on a Tuesday, and then only one time, I shot over 2 days, and that was the Walking Dead Dave Chappelle piece. That was the only piece that I had 2 days to shoot.
I was going to ask you about that one. We have a lot of pieces we want to get into that from your time on the show, but just while you brought that up to dive into it just for a second, and then Andy had one he wanted to ask you about as well. I did notice that you were brought back this past season, right, for when Chappelle was brought back to do the House of the Dragon piece. So was it because you had that connection to the first piece you did with Chappelle with The Walking Dead, and obviously that one blew up because it was such a big deal that Chappelle was bringing back all these characters?
I mean, that really helped. But truthfully, I was in New York doing Bupkis, and then one of the directors at SNL got COVID. So someone was down, and I was available, and it all worked out. And yeah, it was another sort of crazy shoot. But I only had 1 day to shoot it on that one. They're both really insane. I could tell you, I don't even know where to start. Where you guys tell me where to start?
Well, I just want to say
as far as both of those,
I was with Donnell Rawlings at Just for Laughs, and I asked him. I was like, "Tell me what that episode was like with Chappelle this past time," and then he said, "I wish you could see the uncut version of the House of the Dragon that we did because it got so wild. There was so much we had to cut out of it." So just from your perspective, like any fun stories from either filming the House of the Dragon or the Walking Dead pieces?
Well, I'll start with House of Dragon because it was more fresh or fresher.
Sure.
So it was written by Colin Jost and Chappelle. And I just knew that it was going to change a lot. So on Wednesday night, we had the meeting after table read, and it's still going down with Zoom because of, I don't know. Actually, sorry. I'll get to it. It was in Zoom, still some COVID protocols. And I sort of knew that this was a sketch a rough of the sketch. Like it was going to change a lot. So I engaged Zen mode, and I think we talked with Colin. We're like, we just have to make a decision on the set and some of the characters because the set's going to take a long time. And then that was Wednesday, and then I asked him, "Do you think this will be like the last time where Dave kind of brings a bunch of the characters?" At that point, it didn't have that. He said, "I don't think so." And then Thursday, Dave's like, "I think I want to do this. I want to have all my characters and have them be sort of Game of Thrones type characters, Targaryens." So then costumes has to figure out what that means as far as like what does Rick James mean as a Targaryen, you know? So it's like a lot of back and forth on what the what the hell does that mean? Like obviously it's like, well, let's get the wig, so I guess let's make the wig blonde. So at this point, also the script is changing, but Dave tells me all the characters he's playing. So I know all the characters that we have. So I start talking to the DP and I'm like, I don't know what the story is just yet, but these are all the characters. So these are the places that we'll shoot. So like the king will come from this place and Keenan will come from this place. So we sort of made a general battle plan. And he's made it sort of a general lighting plan too. Again, engage Zen mode. And then Friday in the morning, I get the script. But Dave's part are blank because he was just going to make them up on set. And I was like, cool, Zen mode. So I remember Friday morning, Colin Jost is like, hey, can we get some kids for this sketch? I don't know if you guys remember. There's like a cutaway to some kids. And I was like, Zen mode? Sure. Yeah, let's see. It's one of many crazy requests I've been asked. And I said, also text the producers, like, we need to find 2 kids, 8 years old. And, let's go. So we started that day shooting at 3:30 or 4 p.m. or something. I started with those kids. And then I did the stuff with the King, with James. And then Chappelle rolled up around 8 p.m. With Ice-T. And we started figuring out what it was going to be at that time. And so he just started going through like every character and just delivering like slam dunks. And so I was just like, I need to collect all these like ingredients, and then we're going to figure out. And then thank God we knew about that dragon that like lights the crack pipe early. So we had some VFX wizards working on that. So yeah, we ended shooting that at 3:30 in the morning, and I went to sleep. There was an editor that was working since Friday afternoon. He was just getting all the footage that was coming in, and by Saturday at 10 a.m. he sent me a rough cut. So yeah, then Saturday we just honed as much as we can, and with the feeling that like this is probably going to play because of all those Chappelle characters. But yeah, that was, so going back to COVID protocols. So that Friday, they take the mask mandate off. So I'm back on set. I haven't seen all these people for so long. I hug a bunch of people. How's it going, my friends? I haven't seen you so long. And then Saturday, I'm at the show. How's it going, my friends? I haven't seen you so long. It's so cool. And then the after party is so cool. There's so many people. And then I got COVID for the first time.
Oh, man.
No.
Yeah. And avoided it for 3 years. And then it got to me.
Oh no. Okay. Well, at least you didn't have to direct the next week. So
No, it was fine. I found out, and then I was in bed, and it was fine. But it was it was a really fun week.
yeah, it came together really beautifully. So great job
Thank
on
you.
that piece.
So I want to just briefly talk about your influences a little bit, if we could. John
Sure.
mentioned that you came in right after Lonely Island, and I was thinking that creating short films for SNL, it's such like a Hall of Fame class, right? It's like Ben Stiller's done it, Albert Brooks has done it, McKay, who you mentioned earlier, has done it. Like when you came in, were you aware of SNL shorts? Like, was there a particular style of SNL short that you loved, or even more broadly, like, were there any comedy directors or comedy filmmakers that you've always kind of cited as an influence? I'm just kind of curious where you kind of come from with that stuff, especially as someone who's created shorts for SNL.
Yeah, I obviously McKay is a very a big fan of McKay, not because of all what he's done to my career, but I think he's amazing. I think my favorite comedies are his first 3 movies. So I think Matt and I loved comedy, but I think we also were just movie nerds, and I think that is something that we embraced and brought to comedy and sketch filmmaking, I guess, is what you call it. Like as far as like the first sketch we did with friends was called Tuesday Afternoon Orgy. It's about this guy that's so bad at orgy that he gets kicked out. But like we wanted it to be really funny, and it was really fun to work with the actors and did a lot of improv. But we were also like we wanted to get the best camera we could get to shoot it, and we got some nice lenses that we attached to our XL2. So we were always sort of concerned with the filmmaking aspect, and I think that's something that we brought to SNL as far as like going back to what I was saying, we could work with any writer every week. So our fifth show, we did something with Mike O'Brien, and it was a short film, and we got to make it as cinematic as possible. And and it was still one of my favorite pieces, and that's Sad Mouse. And we shot that on a 5D, I think, that tiny camera. And that was just something like, hey, let's make this like a sort of a short film that hopefully has a little bit of emotion and looks cool. And like we knew we were shooting in Times Square, so we opted to get these long lenses. So yeah, I think it was a love of comedy and sort of this filmmaking nerd side that we brought, sort of tried to meld those together.
Who plays the frog in that, by the way, at the end?
Well, it's supposed to be Bruno Mars, but it was an intern that played most of it. I think we had Bruno Mars for like 45 minutes, and we were able to shoot all of this in Times Square because there was a Snoop Dogg imitator, sort of fake Snoop Dogg, walking around, and people were just going nuts thinking it was Snoop Dogg. And in the meantime, we had a real deal celeb. So we shot for like 45 minutes with Bruno Mars. So we shot it really fast. And then at some point, right on the last shot, someone was like, hey, it's Bruno Mars. And he's like, okay, bye. He got in the car.
Got in the car.
Gotta go. Yeah, because we were like in Times Square. Yeah.
Like growing up, it's the 90s, you're going to Blockbuster, what have you. Like, what are you getting on a Friday night? Like, what are your go-tos?
So, big Steven Spielberg fan. Indiana Jones movies are my favorite movies. I watch a lot of movies because I think my mom loves movies too, and I grew up in the Dominican Republic, so we didn't have Blockbuster, we had Omar Videos, and it was really cool because you could get Temple of Doom and Last Crusade, but you can also get these Pedro Almodovar movies, which was really exciting because sort of everything was a foreign movie. And then we had like cable, but cable was like just a bunch of different channels. So we had like HBO and WGN from Chicago, and also a bunch of Spanish channels. And I was always seeking out movies. So Steven Spielberg was the guy that I sort of like latched onto. I was like, I want to know everything about him and watch all his movies. But I think Bill Murray had a sort of big effect on me because I loved Ghostbusters, and then all the way to Rushmore. I remember all these two movies I saw back in the Dominican Republic, and I was like, this dude's amazing. Met him once in SNL, and it was truly insane. So I I think growing up, I just loved movies, and I would say I probably always enjoyed comedies. But I think also going to film school, I was like watching everything, watching artsy movies and everything. So yeah, I like seriously, like a Funny or Die. A lot of the people there would go to UCB shows after work, and I was like, I'm not going to a UCB show. I'm going to home. I'm going to watch a movie because I already had a free UCB show with you guys. There's only so much comedy I can take. So yeah, I think it's to this day I feel the same way. Or like I love comedy. I love watching as much as I can that's out there, but also love watching me some sad French movie like I did yesterday.
All right. Well, this is all fascinating, by the way. Love to hear about the influences and stuff like that. So, you mentioned a couple sketches from your first season. I was going through the list of sketches that you and Matt worked on during season 38, and something really stood out to me, which was a sketch that Seth worked on from the Zach Galifianakis episode called Daryl's House, which was in two parts and was one of the more creative sketches I've ever seen on the show. Can you talk about your involvement in that? And of course, fans, if you haven't seen that sketch, like, you got to go back and check it out.
Maybe my favorite, one of my favorite nights at SNL for sure. They read it at table, and I remember the feeling of when the second script came up, and so just started hearing people start to get it, and how weird it was, and I was just like, this is my first year, so I'm like, everything's amazing here, and I was a big fan of Zach Galifianakis. So I'm like, this is incredible. So I remember at the end, because it involved so much editing, at the end of the table read, young Padawan Oz went up to Seth, and I was like, I will do anything to help make that real. And then they picked it, which was truly insane. And then Thursday, Seth and I talked, and he's like, do you think we could do this? And I was like, yes. Truly not knowing like if we could do this, but like, I know there's a way. This is amazing. We have to put this on. So for I was doing that, but I was serving as the editor, but I still had to do a sketch. We did a Martha Stewart, it was like 100 Flowers or Martha Stewart, like Match.com commercial. Like, we had to do something. So you had to shoot Friday in the morning, and then Friday afternoon they did the rehearsal. And I remember the people in the control room were also like, what the fuck is, like, what is this? Like, they were like, I don't understand. Like, the shots are not going to match. We're like, don't worry, it's going to be great. So what I did was that rehearsal, I took that footage, and I basically started like editing and started like prepping almost like a drill, like these are the things that we're going to do. And I had the post-production supervisor, Matt Yonks, helping me. So like we started building the timeline. Like, we know this music is going to be here, and we know we're going to need this, this, and that. So then Saturday they did the blocking rehearsal, and John Hamm came in, and we shot that thing. And again, I'm like doing this drill, like freaking doing it a bunch of times. Just like, okay, music. Okay. All right. How much take? All right, cool. Did it in 15 minutes. Great. So then it was truly very exciting, but also nerve wracking. So then dress rehearsal, they did it, and the footage comes in, and I'm like, great, awesome, put in the thing, put in that thing, awesome, send it out, dope. It worked. I had 33 minutes between the first sketch and the last sketch, and we got it out. People got it. It was amazing. People laughed. And then I went up to Lauren's office, and Eric Kenward, the producer, is like, can you do it again? I was like, yes. And he's like, can you do it in 18 minutes? And I was like, oh my God, yes. And I said yes because I was standing next to two beautiful men. I was standing next to Bradley Cooper and what's his face, Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. I just like took some of their power, and I said, I could do this. And then, it was the most nerve-wracking, or one of the most nerve-wracking. There were so many moments, but it was sort of went into this drill of like, okay, wide shot, okay, single right here, okay, we got the sound effect, okay, great, send it in. And the control room had the dress rehearsal version ready just in case I didn't make it. And I almost took that as a slight. I was like, no way, you're going to get it from the live version. So send it in. John Solomon, a writer, came, and we edited that on the 5th floor, and we ran up 3 sets of stairs and came into 8H just in time for it to play. And it was one of the most amazing experiences to hear the laughter, to hear people get the joke. was awesome. Really,
Yeah.
really cool.
They didn't know what they had with you, Oz, that you could pull this off. So it was so well done and so incredible to watch. So really, people got to go check that out. You mentioned that Match.com sketch. Do you remember who wrote that one? The same episode?
Man, I truly don't remember. My mind was in
Daryl's house. Yeah, that's totally fine.
I don't. I'm glad it was a simple sketch.
Got it. Okay, so I was curious from you. I mean, there's some other really fun sketches you worked on early on in your SNL career, like the One Direction concert line with Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
Do It on My Twin Bed happened a couple episodes later. So there's so many good ones from those early days. Is there anyone that you have some fun stories about, or one that you really enjoyed that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, I think Twin Bed came from talking to Chris and Sarah and Adie and Kate, and talking about there's a space to make music videos, and I think it'd be really exciting if you guys did it, because it's never been done. I hadn't remember. I don't remember. I couldn't remember a sort of just women doing comedy music video. Yeah, it was really exciting that I had nothing to do with the writing, but that was really exciting. It's one of those things where at the table read, sometimes when it plays there, it friggin' slays, and immediately I'm like texting the producers like, I think we're doing this. So it was a really exciting production. We felt like this, like, you don't want to jinx it, but like it feels like you got something. And we shot a really nice fancy stage. And I remember we had Jimmy Fallon for an hour. And it was just one of those things that was really hard to do, but we also felt like, I think we got something. And then, kind of like Daryl's house, that was just an amazing experience to hear the audience get it, especially with the photos of them as kids.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That reaction was so huge. So yeah, that was a really just pleasant and fun experience that led to a bunch of other sort of videos with the ladies and Chris and Sarah.
It has to be so gratifying to be in that studio and hear the audience after you've been, spending so much time putting the thing together so quickly, but just to hear it receive that kind of energy.
Yeah, that that is the like, I'm not a performer, so I don't get to have that experience of being live with the crowd, but that is as close as I get to it. It's really crazy, like when it hits. And the inverse of it is also insane. When it doesn't hit, it's truly the longest time of your life, when you're standing next to the Lord and something's not playing, and oh my God.
Time stops. So when you mentioned you were texting the producers going, hey, this is playing at the table, we're going to do this, I imagine the music video, like, there's an extra step, right? Just on a production question. I mean, they have to record the music, right, for playback first.
So, oh man, it really is like an extra step. Like, everything's already hard, but if you're doing music, it's an extra step, because the idea has to be written, and then the writers go with the musical director Eli,
Right.
and they compose a very rough version of it, and because it needs to also play at the table, and Eli's usually there playing keyboards and stuff to like give it as much energy as possible for that crowd too. So they already have some sort of sketch of the song, and even if it's like the very simplest beat. So if that gets picked, Eli is working on the track until Saturday, so adding horns, adding this, whatever. And then at some point Thursday, the cast records the song, like the
lyrics,
proper vocals, the proper lyrics. and then we have that like it's fresh off the oven on Friday, and they're lip syncing that and playing, and we usually got a teleprompter, because like they're kind of like the cards are doing so many things, so it just
They don't
helps.
remember what they sang, right.
Yeah, and I remember once we changed the lyric on the set. So they were singing about something, but they wanted to say something else, and it was in rhythm. So we shot them saying the other thing, and then they had to go back to 30 Rock and record that part of the song and then get it into the mix. It was wild.
Yeah.
So, and Eli was like doing a mix for Dress, and then he's like, "Hey, I got a better one for Air." So people are like working it till the last second.
Well, and everything you're describing, Oz, is what I'm leading to is this for everybody who's been a fan of the show, or even people that in the years that you were there had just started, the younger generation who've founded the show maybe for the first time. You brought an amazing delivery in the creating Saturday Night Live little episodic pieces for a couple years that were so they were every time those would come out like on a week off or early the next week, as you were waiting, fans eagerly waiting for the next Saturday, it was like, oh my gosh, there's another creating Saturday Night Live. Everything from the crane camera to one of my favorites is just the Lenny and Leon, the music stuff or whatever. But I know that that series that you put together uh received some accolades as well, and I just got to say thank you for that. It is truly a, a a look behind the curtain that in terms of how it was done. That's kind of and I've enjoyed it. Is kind of why I'm asking some of these geeky production type questions. How did that? If I remember correctly, like the first one or two was kind of almost like you were trying something out, and you're like, all right, let's keep doing these. Was that sort of a? Did you find it almost by happenstance?
Uh, well, I appreciate everything you said. That's very nice, and it was definitely made for people like you, James. People that, well, and I'm like you. I'm like, but being in there, I truly was like, once I saw behind the curtain, like I worked with these amazing people, these wizards. I I just sort of felt like some people need to know. I also like every documentary that is about SNL, or that was shot while I was there, or every time like media came around, they would talk. They was like host first, cast and Lorne, and then sometimes the writers. But that was about it. But meanwhile, you have these like Louis Zakarian, who's like an incredible makeup artist.
Absolutely.
So, it was an idea that I was pitching, and had to get the okay from Lauren. And I remember I sort of brought it up informally, I think, to Kenward. And then I believe the first one we did was for the first Trump show, right, with Baldwin, maybe. I think I used that opportunity. I was like, this is like going to be a big deal. Maybe maybe it could be like a pilot for this. And yeah, I think we started figuring out, but I think the idea was to sort of look at all the different departments that are responsible for making this show what it is. So makeup, hair, costumes, music. I fought against film unit, but we did that.
Well, yes,
Yeah, set change. Isn't that crazy?
That was a cool one. Going from the cold open to the monologue, and yeah.
Like that is something that you only see in
the studio,
in the bumper. The couple bumpers in the live show when Lauren's in there. But these people are moving so fast, and they're moving all these sets, and like that space is not that big. So they're using every inch of 8H to do these sketches, and it's really wild how the timing of this team, and they have to work in conjunction with like you know. People that are getting their makeup done and people are changing into the next costume and the band that's coming in to go play. It's wild.
Well, I say thank you again, and I am sort of even more appreciative now to hear the insight in that you getting there and just sort of observing it on your own, being uh, amazed by your peers and colleagues to go, gosh, this story needs to be told. One of the things you did the tribute to Hal Wilner, which a lot of people know what he had done over the years for the show and even in the music world outside the show. So that was an extra special love letter that came out of the at home episode. So again, man, we're a fan, and it's just really cool to see you be able to place on a pedestal just the fine, amazing work that goes into all those different departments.
Yeah, it's it truly floored me. Like I really enjoyed my time off, just like hanging out with different people. That's how I became friends with Hal, and he was such a character, and like I didn't really understand what he did. And then but I would like see all these like respected cool musicians come, and I would like think they would like go talk to Lauren or like a cast member. No, they would go talk to Hal, and I was like, who's that guy? And then he like told me how he started and what he did and how he cares about the how he would help set the tone to the sketch. It was truly fascinating, and like to get there, to get to SNL, it's kind of like Carnegie. You have to practice. You have to be skilled at what you're doing, and like for example, Louis one day at an after party, Louis hanging out with Rick Baker. I don't know if you guys know Rick Baker. He's like renowned
Yeah, the Oscar
makeup artist from
makeup guy.
Hollywood. Yeah, American Werewolf, London, I think. I so I'm like, oh, amazing, Louis. Can I talk to Rick Baker? Like, yeah. So I'm, hey, Rick Baker, how's it going? Big fan. You're amazing. And he's like, I'm not amazing. Louis is amazing. And he says that in front of Louis. He's like, what he does is crazy. Like, I was hanging out with him, and like the things he's doing in like 90 seconds are insane. And that's right. Like, this dude's won Oscars, but Louis is doing insane things. And like the in the Trump era, it became even crazier because like the news cycle is, you guys know, was 24 hours. And so like I remember we had some crazy story about having to make Mitch McConnell sort of like neck for Beck in like overnight. And that's crazy. Like, and he pulls it off.
Yeah, that's insane, and all credit to Louis and his department on that. You did talk about the Hal Wilner tribute a little bit, which was from the first At Home show, the Tom Hanks show in April of 2020. Just would love to just follow up a little bit on how you got brought in for the At Home shows and specifically for that Hal Wilner tribute.
I think the At Home shows were going to be all sort of digital, and it was a little bit of all hands on deck. I had left by that time, but I reached out. I said I'm available, and when he, especially when he passed, I said I would love to be involved in if there's anything. Um, and then Lauren wanted him to, yeah, Lauren and the show wanted to put something together. Everything was like, we were figuring it out. It was like the first show we were doing in COVID times. Everything was going to be on the phone. So it was wild. I was like texting Adam Sandler being like, hey, can you send a video about how and this? But he was just like, he has such a big impact on people that everybody said yes. And yeah, everybody had a ton of stories, and yeah, it was really special because I really, really, really enjoyed talking to him, and he just had so many stories, and it felt like a really nice thing that I could do. And he was the first person I knew that that passed from COVID. It was wild, very very intense, wild time. So I'm very very happy with how it turned out, and I'm happy some people uh, sort of learned about him sadly at that moment. But um, yeah, he was amazing.
Was there anybody who was in charge of that segment with regards to putting it all together, or was that you in collaboration with Lauren?
I think I was working with the producers of the show and maybe Kenward. I don't think Lauren saw it till late.
Okay.
It was a big producing job because there were so many people and so many people wanted to say something or like be involved. And all of a sudden there's like it became a music video. So we had to coordinate all those people coming together on that Zoom and figure out how do we record this? Really, how do we record them singing? So it all came together sort of very quickly and sort of semi improvised as it went because there were so many people that wanted to say something. So I was getting videos till Saturday, and but we at least had this song to go off. But yeah, I think it was a big producing job and just sort of coordinating between people, and then I believe Lauren saw it on Saturday, and yeah, very very happy it made it to the screen.
One of the best, one of the best tributes.
Well, all this talk about Hal Wilner reminds me about one of the other original creative behind the scenes people from that first era of SNL, Tom Schiller, who's one of the first filmmakers as well too. And I had the opportunity to talk to him actually during the pandemic. And I remember one of the things that he was saying was working with the cast members. It kind of added like a new dimension when certain cast members were in a short film versus like a live sketch. Like he was able to kind of capture the essence of someone like Gilda Radner or John Belushi or Chris Farley. And he particularly like singled out like Bill Murray. And it's kind of his short films with Bill Murray were kind of like the early, glimpse into Murray's like dramatic side almost, if you know what I mean. Like you're kind of talking about, you're a fan of Bill Murray's as well. So I was curious, as someone who was doing short films a couple decades later, were there any other cast members who you felt like, oh, when this person is in a short film, you see something that you don't usually see in like a live sketch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So I was just thinking about Tom Schiller too, how like he was someone that like had done some really amazing short film pieces that like while at SNL that was something sort of to admire or I was inspired of like trying to make pieces like his pieces that were when they were full short films and then it could just be that.
Right.
So that his contribution to the show was really amazing. He did the Phil Hartman one with the musical, right?
With Jan Hooks.
Yeah. Amazing piece. So sorry, I got distracted. What was your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I love that you're a Tom Schiller fan, and I'm sure he appreciates that as well too. So I'm curious if you have a relationship with
big
him.
fan.
But yeah, I was wondering, like,
never met him. Never met him. Big fan.
well,
But
I'll
yeah,
send him
sorry.
this part
So
of the
like, for
interview
example,
when it runs.
oh, I love it. Like I remember Cecily. Remember having sort of that reaction with Cecily. I remember in '82 where and that was in the first season where I was like, oh, these they're like, I'm like they're real actors. These are comedians. Because like sometimes you have to play sort of the straight character of the person who's just there's no jokes, but they have to be believable. And yeah, they were really sort of incredible with their craft. And same with Taryn and Bobby, they could do really amazing things. And so yeah, I feel like everybody had sort of an extra gear that they could use in the pre-tapes. I even remember like like Keenan, we did something called Tree Pimp, which is a very ridiculous sketch, but like he like was so grounded and he was so good. So yeah, it was always a joy when like you had a sketch where someone um, uh, could sort of play something a little different, and usually if it's a little grounded, it was really exciting. My first year also, it was Bill Hader and Sudeikis and Fred Armisen's last year, so got to work with them a little bit and then see just how freaking good they were. Duh. So yeah, I really respect comedic actors because I think it's truly very very hard what they do, and I don't feel like they get enough respect.
You did a boy dance party also, didn't you?
Yes, yes.
Do you have any stories about working with Bruce Willis, just kind of in the category of you directing living legends?
Well, very Matt and I's favorite movie was the favorite movie is Die Hard. So it was very very we were very nervous to have Bruce Willis around. And they did it at the table, and he was down. And they picked it, and basically every step of like the moment almost was like, "Is this happening?" So yeah, we picked this set, and I don't remember if that was like our first music video. Maybe not, but we couldn't figure out how to give it some like pizzazz. And I remember maybe Wednesday night or Thursday night just going lasers, and we just got these lasers, and that was going to be a lot of the set. So yeah, when Bruce Willis showed up, it was started with like, "Oh, Mr. Willis," but he was down to clown. Like when we started dancing, he there was never any like, "Hey man, do you mind?" It was just like, "Let's go, let's have fun." And like he sent he only had one note between dress and air. He was like, "Can you keep the moment where I'm like twirl?" There was a moment where he's on the floor, kind of going around, kind of like a Three Stooges move, and I was like, "Yes, of course, Mr. Willis." And then he said a note that said, "Thanks for keeping that part in the video." He was so pleasant. We were very very nervous, and he made it very pleasant. But like a lot of SNL experiences, like a quick flash, maybe 3 hours at most.
So I got to ask you about this. If I'm not mistaken, at least one of the years, season I think 44, you were part of forming the opening montage. True?
Yes, yes. You have to remind me, but yes, I did I do it once or twice? Maybe, yeah, I guess once.
I think you did it for
Yeah.
season 44, and they put it in season 45 also, so same one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
It's the I don't even know how to describe it really. I mean, a lot of it is kind of the black and white with the color trim
Yeah,
that comes in
yeah.
there, and I can
So
see, yeah, it's kind of almost. I mean, obviously these are always a love letter to New York City or whatever, but it's just a great style.
yeah, that was in collaboration with Mary Ellen Matthews, who is the photographer of the show. She's always heavily involved in those, which makes sense. There's so much like sort of portraiture to it. And it was we were inspired by French New Wave black and white films. And see, this is where the film nerd thing
Yeah.
comes in. And yeah, we like those things. We because we're not in the show hasn't started. You could prep over like a few weeks. So it was like trying to find iconic kind of spots that like I think what Lauren wants is like to make it feel like a fun night out in New York. Because obviously, as you can see, that's sort of that's the assignment. And it is the only show where locations are very sort of amenable in New York City. So we scouted the Guggenheim and the MoMA and the Met, and
Isn't that where
we
you
got to
did?
shoot it.
Yeah, isn't that where you did one of those? I don't know what you call them, but the logo bumpers where you use that light, that kind of traceable thing for the logo.
Yeah. That was outside the Met, and we did. I think we did Alex Moffat's shot in the. No, we did Kate in the Met, and then we did Alex at the MoMA. But it was like wild to like be there next to this Van Gogh piece, Starry Night.
Yeah.
We're in the Starry Night room, and like after hours. So like that was one of the crazy experience from that. One of the many crazy things that happened at SNL. But yeah, so it's capturing that, but it's also semi a photo shoot. Like for some cast members, it's the first time that people see them, so they're the look is important. Like everybody wants to make the look right or wants to get the look right. So yeah, but it was really fun. Like just going around and shooting in a bunch of places and sort of capturing New York.
That's incredible.
It's so cool. And there's so many SNL stories I feel like we could get into with you, but we need to talk about your movie, which is coming out today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you go to Hulu right now, Miguel Wants to Fight is available, and I got to watch it. It is so much fun, and just it's like there's something about it that I just felt like was so interesting nowadays, where it's a coming of age story of these teenagers who live in an area where there's a lot of fighting, and you have this one main character, Miguel, who doesn't like to fight or sort of avoids fighting, and when he finds out that there's going to be a big change in his life, he wants to get into this one fight, and the whole movie is really about will he get into a fight and how will he get there, and there's a lot of really fun moments throughout the movie. So I was watching it and I was really enjoying a lot of the shots you put in there, because I just felt like it was really creative the way that the story was told. So Oz, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about it, why they should check it out, and how you got involved with the project?
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's I didn't write this one. It was a script that was handed to me, but I am trying to make movies with Latino heroes, so that this was very exciting to get this movie with a kid called Miguel who loves action movies and takes it upon himself to get into a fight instead of telling his friends that he's moving to a new city. This movie would be very short if he was sort of emotionally available, this kid. But it was very exciting, like that he had this connection to action movies, and there are these fun reenactments of action movies told through this half Puerto Rican, half Mexican kid's point of view. So Miguel gets to be Bruce Lee, and he gets to be Neo in The Matrix, and he also gets to have the sword fight with this Frida type character. So all those things really appeal to me, and I think some of that is from like my SNL background of like being able to do parodies and sort of fold that into an entertaining story. So yeah, I think that and it was a really exciting script, and it was definitely a plus to have two things I love: sort of Latino heroes and action movies.
One of the most interesting parts about watching the movie was because I knew I was speaking to you. I was trying to watch it from the perspective of the director and putting together these scenes. And it was really cool with the fight sequences where just as the fights would begin, there would be a transition over to what was happening in Miguel's head and the type of heroes that he could relate to. So I have to imagine that putting together these scenes, there had to be some strong collaboration between you and the editing department for how the animations are going to work with the fight scenes you were producing. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I was very lucky to work with Adam Epstein, who was my collaborator at SNL too for a long time, for a few years. So we had the shorthand, and we were very ambitious with this movie. We didn't have a big budget or a lot of time. So a lot of our SNL sort of boot camp experience really went into it. My joke is that this was sort of 24 SNL shooting days together. So yeah, it was really helpful to work with Adam, and he really uh, turned this movie around in a short time, and now is doing amazing things, editing for The Bear. But yeah, I for this movie, there's these action scenes, and I had a little bit of experience at SNL with some stunts. Sometimes you would have a stunt in a piece, and that was where I first started meeting stunt coordinators and seeing how hard that is. And I did this movie called Vampires vs. the Bronx, and I really learned that you have to prep and give yourself time for stunts. So for this one, I found some person online, some dude. His name was Chris Cowan, and he makes amazing martial arts shorts. And I was like, dude, you got to help me out. And we spent months figuring out how we're going to do these action scenes, and then we had to shoot them in 3 days. So, like I said, everything was sort of expedited in an SNL kind of way, but I think we survived it because of my SNL Jedi training.
That's really interesting. That was going to be my question, Oz, after getting to see the film screener. Um, a director. I mean, again, you've done so many different genres, and SNL's crazy because you're doing parodies of all these different things. So when I'm watching the film, uh, and I enjoyed it as John mentioned, and look forward for folks to be able to catch it. But yeah, a lot of fighting scenes where you don't just automatically know how to shoot that and make it look real, and those quick cuts. And so I was gonna. So you came to a martial arts person who could help you with that, but still you have to use your own intuition, I imagine, as a director to figure out how you're going to place those shots and cut it. And I would imagine it doesn't always work the first time.
Well, I spent months like bugging people and learning people and listening to podcasts with like stunt coordinators and like the Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick, and just sort of learning how the good action scenes are made. Because I think people like in their gut know when an action scene is good or not. Even they might not tell you like, oh, the editing, the shots, whatever, but they just like feel like that was good. Uh, so I want to know, how do you make the good? And so yeah, I sort of started soaking up the knowledge, and then I met Chris, who became a second unit director, and we shot those action scenes. We did a rough of them in the park, so we would make all our mistakes there. Because the day of shooting, we had to be prepared. We had to get it, but in the park we could mess around and like try all the things. So over like 3 days, we shot a very low budget version of those fights, and then we had to commit. And the day of, we had to go, and these are the shots we do, and God help us. But like, I remember my first experience with something like that was, you guys remember Karate Teen? I think it was called. Like it was with John Cena, and Mikey Day gets punched so hard that he flies out of his pants.
Right.
And goes through like 5 walls. Like we did that practically, and we had to figure out how to like tie his pants to the floor, because I wanted to be all Christopher Nolan about it and do it practically. I mean, I had to, because we didn't have time to do VFX. But that was the first time, my first experience with like stunts and previs. So yeah, took some of that knowledge and like prepped as much as we could, because we only had 24 days to shoot the movie, and three of those were for the intense fight scenes.
Well, bravo. And I'm going to ask, you are proud of your work. You should be, right? I mean, that's the final product.
Yes, sorry, I should have said that. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's very exciting. Please go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, 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 very proud. Very, very, very happy with it, and very happy that it's out today and people can see it on Hulu. On the main page.
And Oz, I just would like to ask you, I mean, you've done so many different amazing, you've done so much work that's really incredible, and we got to talk about a lot of it today. What are your goals moving forward as far as projects you're looking to take on? I know that Miguel Wants to Fight really appealed to you because you said it's there's a connection and you see the Latino hero. Are those the types of projects that you're looking for with that angle, or are there other things that you'd like to accomplish over the next few years?
Well, I need to sound more excited, I guess, is the main thing.
You do sound
I'm
excited.
very excited about being able to fight. No, I think that is if I can the make stories like that, those are really great and exciting. I'm excited about doing stuff that is sort of blank comedy, sort of like this one's action comedy. The last thing I did was a horror comedy, so that's exciting to sort of branch out. Not leaving comedy, but also excited when I did Kevin Can F Himself. It was just like there were just scenes that were full drama. So, yeah.
Great show, by the way. That's an underrated show, by the way. People don't talk about that one enough.
Thank you. Yeah, Annie Murphy was well. Everybody was amazing, but she was an amazing collaborator because it was yeah, like I was saying, my first time working on some stuff on scenes that had no jokes at all. So yeah, I like to put myself in challenging, uncomfortable situations. So I'd love to keep doing bigger, better projects. And if it has someone of Latino descent as a lead, it's even more exciting. But yeah, I just love doing as much as I can.
That makes sense. Well,
if I could say one more
go ahead,
thing,
Jason.
John, I know you're getting ready to wrap, but I just, as we're going through all of the different things, it's a very, varied career thus far, Oz, that you have to be very proud of. When you watch a film or you watch a TV show and you get connected to the characters or you can believe them, obviously the actors have done a lot in that, but I think chemistry in some of these TV shows, a lot of it is the director. I believe, especially when the director is in multiple episodes. And I just got to say, it was kind of short lived, but what you did on those episodes of AP Bio, that just always cracked me up. And I saw some of the behind the scenes things. Your camaraderie with that cast was it was fun to watch. So thanks for that one.
Yeah, that was a very nice show and opportunity, and I struggled to even call it a job. It was very fun, very pleasant. Like I met Mike O'Brien doing Sad Mouse in episode 5, and that's where we started our friendship. And yeah, it was a really exciting project, my first pilot, and everyone was so lovely. I just love the show and love everything about it.
Very cool. Well, there's about 50 more sketches you worked on at your time at SNL that we'll have to dive into another time. So next time you have a project you'd like to come on here and tell all of the SNL fans about Oz, we'll have to have you back because I think this was so fantastic getting to hear your perspective on things. And it is really, it's fun for us to just get the director's side of producing a lot of these shorts. We actually, we had Don Roy King on the podcast a couple years back. So to hear his perspective as a director of Saturday Night Live was really cool. And now to get you on, truly fascinating for all the fans. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, guys. This is really exciting, and I love talking about the insane stories from SNL. There are so many. Like I have a blizzard story, I have a thunderstorm story.
Okay, well, we'll have to get into that. So put a pin in that for now. We'll have you on for another episode coming up at some point. But Oz, if you just stick around for a few more minutes, I'll just wrap up the show. So James, thank you so much for joining us today. So great to get to talk to you.
Absolutely. This isn't a job. This is pure fun and joy.
Absolutely. Andy Hoglund, what do you have coming up? Anything you're writing about over the summer about Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I mean, I just published something in Vulture. I had a chat room Q&A with Michaela Watkins. She's promoting her new movie with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, which I recommend that folks see. I don't know if Oz, you got a chance to just check out You Hurt My Feelings yet, but it's quite good. So yeah, that's the latest one in the pipeline, and always a pleasure to be on the program. So thanks for taking the time today, Oz.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy, for joining us. And yeah, you can catch up with everything we're doing at the SNL Network on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram to find our social media handles. I guess not Twitter anymore, but yeah, we'll see. You could also...
Right? I think I saw a note about that online.
Yeah, maybe.
My phone called it X now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. You can also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Right now, we are counting down the greatest impressions in the history of Saturday Night Live. So that's your regular Monday coverage. We also just had our Just for Laughs coverage that came out. So we have interviews up with Quinta Brunson, Rainn Wilson, a lot of great folks that were up here for Just for Laughs. So hope you'll check that out, and a lot of other fun programming to come later on. Make sure to go check out Miguel Wants to Fight, out now on Hulu. It is amazing. And Oz is so enthusiastic about it. So we are
what
we're
you're
excited
doing
for you
right now. Watch that movie, everyone. Like, I'm not
Let's
even
go.
joking. If I find out that someone watched this interview and they did not watch the movie, there's going to be a price to pay. I guarantee it.
Guys, Miguel Wants to Fight will change your life. Go to hulu.com or Hulu on your phone.
For sure. All right. So for James and Andy and Oz Rodriguez, my name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.